This is Diego Cordovez. Welcome to The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. My co-host Adam Schoenfeld is traveling abroad. Last week we had Sammy Farha with some very interesting insights into his long career in cash games and tournaments. So we've got more with Sammy. If you missed part one, it's on Card Player TV. Speaking of how the second place guy is forgotten for the most part, the guy who wins in a tournament is the hero, even though you're very well known in the professional ranks. To the typical guy at home, their lasting image is the famous match against Chris Moneymaker, heads up. I don't know if you remember, but right when the match ended, about 2 minutes later, you told me, "Oh, I made a mistake. I should have called on the famous hand where he bluffed. You know, you had a pair of nines." You've won 2 bracelets, and you've made millions playing in the cash games, and the cash games is your main thing. Does that match still resonate in your mind? Is it something that you go over and you think, "I wish I'd done this or that"? Does it matter to you?
No, let me tell you why. Because people, it's easier to watch TV. You have to put yourself in the player, what the situation he went in.
You don't see the cards.
Well, no, I played 5 days. It's hard to sleep. The old days, you play 16 hours a day, and then it's hard to go to bed after that.
Yeah, you're still wired up.
Yeah, you're wired up, and you sleep 2-3 hours. The 5th day, I had no sleep at all. And I played good because that table was full of great players.
Yeah.
So I played great.
Right.
Until I reached to Chris Moneymaker. It's not that I underestimated him. I gave up. I said, that's it. As if I won in my eyes. And that's the bad thing.
You were overconfident.
Yeah. Overconfident, and I made that mistake because I was tired. I didn't focus as much. Even though I was tired, I focused the max until I reached the second place.
Maybe against another player, you might have been more on your game.
Yeah, if I'm playing a good player, I would have played it completely different.
As it turns out, the fact that Chris Moneymaker won was the greatest thing that ever happened to poker. It brought more people into poker. So, I mean, in the bigger scheme of things, there was a lot of benefit to him winning.
Not to me, though.
No, of course. I mean, to you, of course you want to win. But I'm saying if you're going to lose, the effect it had on bringing more people into the game and growing the game the way it has been phenomenal.
You know, I don't think it's true, but I don't take it this way. I don't think that way.
No.
Because poker's going to be good either way. If I won or you won. I mean, coming second was huge either way.
Yeah.
From $25 or $50.
Right, of course.
To get
it's still a
1.3
story.
million. It's a hell of a story.
Yeah.
Win or coming second is the same thing.
Yeah. Well, but him winning to this day is still the most memorable.
That's true.
Winner, and and you played a big part. And the thing is, you can say what you say about that one hand. It's not as if it was some terrible play. It's just sometimes
No, it
you
was a
get bluffed.
terrible play. It was such an easy call. The reason he won it, he admitted he got lucky 27 times, 27 hits. I was unlucky. I was lucky one hand, and I was unlucky.
Yeah.
That hand I played it really bad because I never played it first, number one.
Right.
I was really tired, number 2. And number 3, any beginner player would have made the call. Because I trapped him when I made the call $500,000. I wasn't going for nothing else.
Right.
Except for a blind.
For people that forget, it was a hand where you had the top pair, Chris Moneymaker on the river, he'd missed his flush draw, but he went all in, and you thought about it for a long time and you laid down. But watching the match live, I felt that, first of all, when you're playing someone who you think is the inferior player, you don't want to go out on in a marginal situation. You figure there'll be a better situation later. And you also figure, up until then, Chris Moneymaker really had played a very solid game. He hadn't shown a lot of bluffs or crazy plays. So, I mean, to his credit, it was against his image that he was willing to pull off a bluff for his entire tournament life. So it's not an easy call to make when you factor in those two pieces of information.
Go back and watch the hand when it started. It was a bad play on my part. But I never knew. You see, pros trap each other's.
Right.
But Chris Moneymaker is a beginner. He's a beginner, and I should have made the call because the fact he raised on the flop, on the button, before the flop, on the flop he should have bet.
Right.
Any pro will bet. Any beginner will bet.
Right, they're going to continue.
Yeah. Chris Moneymaker checked. That's a big sign of weakness. But I was so tired, I thought maybe, I started having doubts in my mind. Maybe he was trapping.
Right.
He's not too quick to trap,
Right.
and I should have made the call. But hey, we all make mistakes, and it's not easy when you're on the table. It's easy to watch, see what's going on. On the table,
Well, if
a
that
lot
were,
of doubts.
yeah, and if that had been the one opportunity in your entire life, maybe you think about it every day, but you've had a lot of success in poker overall, you're not going to think about one match where you still came in second, which was still a big deal.
Well, the difference, I was trying to win. I don't want to take the risk. Normally when I play heads up, I want to come on top. If I can't come on top, I'm not going to.
Right. And
And I
that's
trapped
another
him
thing.
really. He came on top. I trapped him all the way so he can bluff at the end. But I backed up. The reason I was so tired.
Well, and that's another thing too, is that you're used to being the aggressor, you're used to being the bluffer, so it kind of shifted things around to where suddenly you're in the role of the trapper or the caller, which is not characteristic of your
It's
your
true,
style.
but at that time, I was trapping him. Because he's been lucky so many times.
Right.
A lot of people contradicted me. I mean, they said, why didn't you move all in on the turn right away?
Right.
You had
top
top
pair,
flush draw
and you
top
had a
pair.
flush draw as backup in case you were wrong.
I said, well, I'm avoiding his good luck.
Right.
Which I did the right thing, a blank hit.
Right.
I backed up on my plan.
Maybe that got a little bit in your head that he'd been so lucky against you that you were going to be more conservative.
I don't know if you were there, but it took me about 15 minutes to lay my hand down.
Oh,
you don't
yeah.
see that on TV.
See, this is another thing too, is that on TV it seems very quick.
Like right
you
there.
thought for the longest that you thought that entire final table. It was
when
a
you
long,
think a lot,
long analysis.
you
So you
lose
were trying to
your
get a
instinct.
read on him.
Well, you
that
can't
whole
get a
time.
read. The read was on the way he plays.
Right.
A lot of people, amateurs, they look in your face, they take their glasses and this. This
But
is
I-
BS. It's not.
No, but I remember that you were really focused on him and trying to see if you could pick something up in that whole time that you were analyzing.
Yeah, honestly, I was so tired. Normally I pick on my players the way they play the hand,
Right.
which I should have thought about it, and I did not. It's easier to analyze things after the hand is over.
Right. Very much so, and very much when you see the cards on the TV screen
It's
too.
easier.
That's the other factor. Well, it's been a pleasure. It's a lot of fun talking to you, and my favorite thing is watching high stakes poker. And when you're on, phenomenal show. You enjoy taking part of that, I assume.
Well, it was good before. Now it's harder for me because for years they didn't know how I play.
Right.
Finally, they saw the first show, and I controlled it. Then it changed.
Right.
Cards changed, players changed. It excuse me, started being against me. Really.
For someone who's been primarily a cash game, high stakes cash game player, the advent of TV obviously has changed a lot, because for a long time I remember hearing about Sammy Farha, he plays PLO, and people would tell me a little bit, but how do you know? You don't see the whole cards, you don't see the hands play out. Now on TV, all of a sudden, people get insight. You probably have to adjust your own game as a result.
Which is true. I can do it, but I don't want to do much over the camera anymore. You know,
Yeah.
I can do it outside in the cash game.
Right.
But under camera, I have no benefits to do that anymore.
Yeah, very little. Very little.
All these guys have benefits. You know?
Right. If you're trying to make a big name for yourself, then you want to
Sponsored.
be on.
It's not the big game. It's the sponsorship that they have towards if they're working with certain website or
Right.
which I don't have. no
You're playing for
benefits.
yourself, of
I'm playing for
course.
myself. It costs me money.
Well, thanks a lot for joining us. Thanks for joining us on The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. Write to us at The Scoop, cardplayer.com.